Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. Today we are looking at whether or not Utah deserves to be in the wild card position. And before I gathered the stats for this video, I probably would have said no. I don't think they probably had a chance, but after looking at all the analytics and stats, they got a pretty good chance. If you want hopium, this is the video for you. If you don't want hopium, you don't want to get your hopes up, maybe click off this video because I think Utah's got a really good chance here. Let's get into the stats. We'll start with some simple stats and get into some deep analytics where we only focus on 5-on-5 play. We'll start with points percentage. Utah is third out of the 5 teams I chose for this video. I think these 5 teams are mainly going to battle for that last wild card spot, currently being held by Vancouver, Anaheim, and St. Louis. I put them there. They could go on a run. You never know. But I think it's going to be probably even deeper and more concentrated of a battle between Utah, Calgary, and Vancouver. Utah and Anaheim, I mean, they're barely separated by a lot of points percentage. They're right there neck and neck. But if you look at other stats, Utah is well above Anaheim in a lot of stats. We'll go to goals for per game. Utah somehow is first out of these 5 teams, tied with Vancouver for 2.8 goals per game. It needs to be above 3 goals per game. Utah has had problems struggling to score. It's one of the main reasons why they're in this position. At the end of the video, I'll talk about a bit more, but I do think that if they just scored a little bit more, they would have been well closer to that last wildcard position. Anaheim at 2.48 goals per game. That is last place in the league. And Calgary not far behind. They're 30th in the league in goals for per game. So Calgary and Anaheim, they don't score a lot. And Calgary's been above Utah for, well, pretty much the whole season. So to see them being 30th in the league in goal scoring is very interesting there. They're probably being propped up by another part and factor of the game. Goals against per game, Utah, again, they would have been first place before this past weekend where they allowed 7 goals against Carolina and 4 goals against Washington. After those 2 games, they dropped below Calgary, but still, I mean, even goals against per game at being 3 is pretty high, and that needs to be lower for Utah. So considering they're right there between these 5 teams, having one of the best goals against per game, that speaks volumes to me. Calgary leads the way at 2.98. Also, goal differential. If you want the easiest, simplest way to see or predict who's going to make the playoffs, if you go to NHL.com, you look at the standings page and you see those plus and minus numbers. Teams in the green, they're most likely going to make the playoffs. It's like 90% chance. If you're in the green, the positive goal differential, goals for minus goals against, you're most likely going to make the playoffs. What's interesting is all 5 of these teams are in the minus. So there's no easy way to pick out which team will make it out of these 5. If Vancouver had +2, I would have definitely said, you know what, Vancouver is probably going to make that wild card position. But Utah's right there at second place at -12. And again, before that Carolina game where they lost 7-3, that's -4. They would have been first place out of these 5 teams to have the best goal differential. Calgary's -17, along with St. Louis and Anaheim way down in the dumps at -28. This is all situations, not just 5-on-5. Obviously, these as well includes power play and shorthanded goals for and against. We'll go to power play percentage. Utah second place out of these 5 teams in power play, 22.5%. Vancouver leads the way, just above Utah. So maybe if Utah scored one more power play go on the weekend, again, they'd be first in this group. They're pretty much, Utah is the first or second place team in all of these stats. And I didn't cherry pick these stats to see, Utah's high here. Let me put this stat on the board. I used the same stats from last year's video where the Coyotes were battling for that wild card position, probably right before their 14-game losing streak. But these stats matter, which is why I put them on the board. I didn't cherry pick whatever stats Utah is good at. Penalty kill, Utah leads the way at 81.18%. They had a pretty rough go of it on their PK this past weekend, allowing 2 goals against Washington and allowing, I think, a goal or two against Carolina as well. So again, Utah above and the top of these 5 teams in special teams in the PK. Vancouver's right there with Utah. Anaheim, Calgary, St. Louis, really bad. St. Louis is 30th in the league in terms of penalty kill percentage, and Anaheim is last place in the league in power play, 31st in the league in power play percentage. Those are rough power play numbers, 12%. You can see how high Utah is, almost 10% clearance over Anaheim. And considering they're so tight in the standings in terms of point percentage, you start to look at different types of data and you're like, okay, Utah is a much better team than Anaheim, even though they're close in the standings. And then one more last simple stat is save percentage. And this is where Anaheim is where they are in their standing. It's because of their goaltending. They got great goaltenders in Gibson and Dostal. Both of them had great goalie numbers, a .906 save percentage. And then you got Calgary, Utah, St. Louis right there all together bunched up, and almost Vancouver. Demko just left the game this past weekend against the Maple Leafs with another injury. He's been battling injuries the past 2 or 3 seasons. They're being carried by Lankinen, who's a backup goaltender, not known to be amazing. So we'll see the goaltender situation for Vancouver, but Anaheim really succeeding on the back of their goaltenders. Now we'll go to deep analytics, where this is just 5-on-5 analytics at even strength. This does not take into account power play, PK, or pulling the goalie in the last minute or two of the game. So in terms of expected goals for percentage, if you have more than 50%, that means you have more quality of shot attempts than your opposition in a game 5-on-5. So Utah clears the way at 52.11%. Vancouver is pretty much dead even at 50%. So that means in a game, Vancouver and the opposition, whoever they're facing, they have the same amount of quality shot attempts on net. And then Calgary, St. Louis, and Anaheim, really low. The other team in their games definitely has more quality shot attempts that are translating in more expected goals. And then we go to expected goal differential. Again, this is 5-on-5, and don't be worried. Utah actually is the better of these teams in expected goal differential. Anaheim, in reality, they have a -10 5-on-5 goal differential. They're expected to have a -29 goal differential. So that's why you see a +19. So the analytics say Anaheim should be much worse than they are, but probably due to great goaltending, their goal differential 5-on-5 isn't as bad as the analytics are saying. St. Louis, Calgary, Vancouver, they're pretty much performing as about the analytics expect them to. St. Louis, in reality, they have a -1 goal differential 5-on-5. They're expected to have a -5 goal differential, so they're 4 above their expected. And then we get to Utah. So Utah, in reality, has a +1 goal differential 5-on-5, which is the most out of these 5 teams. Vancouver's at -1, Calgary -4, and I said St. Louis -1, and Anaheim -10. So in reality, Utah is +1 goal differential 5-on-5. They're expected to have a 7.7 positive goal differential. So they're 6.5 below what is expected of them to be having a goal differential 5-on-5. So that says to me, the analytics think Utah should be scoring more efficiently 5-on-5 and have more goals 5-on-5, but they're just not getting it done, which translates to a low goals per game. And one of their main issues, which is finishing. I think Utah, their biggest problem is putting the puck in the net. You look at all these analytics, they're doing everything right. They're getting quality shot attempts. They're possessing the puck more. We'll get to that here. And they're expected to be doing much better, but it's just not translating to actual goals, actually putting the puck past that goal line. And also a little bit of an issue is goaltending. Right now, Utah has exactly league average goaltending at 16th in the league. I know you can't hope and want everything, but if that goalie numbers, the goalie performance was just a little bit above average, they'd have more points in the standings. So for me, Utah's issue here right now is finishing and having average goaltending. It'd be nice to have slightly above average goaltending. The finishing part of it could be injuries, losing Sergachev for 5 games, losing Gunther for 12 games, your best goal scorer on the team, losing Cooley now. I think it's 7 games, losing Dursey for like 45 games, Marino about 40 games. So those are players that could put the puck in the net, and they're injured for a lot of it. So that is the reason why Utah has issues finishing. I mentioned it before, but this is the Fenwick percentage, which is possession. If you have over 50%, that means you're holding on to the puck more. The quality of your possession is much better than the opposition. It determines your quality of puck possession in the O-zone. That's what I said. It's pretty much unblocked shot attempts 5-on-5. So if you're below 50% in a game, the opposition team is getting more greater chances than you and holding onto the puck more than you and holding onto the puck with better quality than you are in a game. And then we go to high danger chance percentage. Again, in a game, if you're over 50%, that means you're generating higher danger chances more often than your opposition. So Utah leading the way, almost 4%, over 4% than the second place team in Calgary. So 54% in a game, the high danger chances are in favor of Utah, and then the 46% are the opposition, goes to the opposition Utah is facing. So again, below 50%, like Anaheim at 44%. The other team, that's basically almost a mirror of Utah and Anaheim, but in a game that Anaheim is involved in, the other team has 56% of the high danger chances, and Anaheim only holds 44%. So this is all 5-on-5. This shows the analytics. Utah should be performing better. They're just not slightly below, I would say well below their expectations. And again, it's due to probably the injuries and just not finishing and only having average goaltending. We'll go to the last 10 games here. Utah, it's been a bit up and down, but Vancouver and Anaheim have had really successful previous 10 games. Calgary and St. Louis especially has hit a slide the past 10 games, only going 3-6-1. And then we look into the future, the first 10 games back for each team coming out of the Four Nations. If this is too much for you, I got a simple graph here and picture. This lists the strength of schedule remaining in the Western Conference. And we'll start with Utah. Utah has the second easiest schedule remaining in the Western Conference, just above the Avalanche. But then you look at the teams Utah's battling for. Calgary has a 4th hardest, Vancouver 5th hardest, St. Louis 6th, and Anaheim 7th hardest remaining schedule. So the schedule remaining, the quality of opponents these teams are facing, Utah's got it set up for them on a tee. They have the easiest schedule remaining out of these 5 teams. So Utah, everything is pretty much set up for success. You got players coming back after the Four Nations in Dursey, and hopefully Cooley's not yet confirmed. We'll see closer to that LA game a week and a half from now on that Saturday, whether Cooley will be back after the Four Nations, but that's all the injuries for Utah. Also Ingram, we're still waiting to hear at the time of this video whether he'll be injured from that slap shot to the face from Ovechkin, but getting healthier and having an easier schedule, you really don't have an excuse anymore. So Utah's set up to really have a great chance of stealing that second wildcard spot in the league. Looking at this, the only notable thing is Calgary, who Utah's been chasing all season. They got a dangerous Eastern road trip. Utah just finished theirs with Washington and Carolina, but Calgary's got Washington, Carolina, and to add in 2 Florida teams in Tampa Bay and Florida. That's a really rough Eastern road trip. Utah's yet to go to Florida. I think they do that maybe middle or late March, maybe early April. They've still yet to play on the road against Tampa Bay and Florida. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you were thinking, does Utah even have a chance to make the wild card spot? I say definitely yes. They do have a chance. Pretty much there's no excuses moving forward. If the goaltending could be a little bit better, if the injuries could stop, please, and we just put the puck in the net more efficiently. And when we're expected to put the puck in the net, we should actually put the puck in the net. And hopefully the return of Cooley and Dursey and Gunther has just been exceptional in the goal scoring department since his return 5 games ago from his 12-game absence. So everything's looking good. And now that I said that, probably something bad will happen to Utah. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.